What is the most pain you've ever experienced? A drunk girl decided to start cooking during a house party at my place while I was in university. She filled a pan with oil, turned it on max, then went outside to have a smoke. I was not in the kitchen. Few minutes later, the smoke alarm goes off as the oil had started to burn. I didn't realize how full it was, and when I grabbed the handle, the boiling oil spilled back onto my hand and I got severe burns all over it. The pain just kept getting progressively worse for hours and hours. Ended up getting a skin graft. I have pics somewhere, if anyone is interested lol.
I once got food poisoning from a burrito so bad that I spent the whole day curled up on the bathroom floor. For hours I would dry heave every 5 to 10 minutes or so, with nothing. Until close to midnight, I had one more wave, and threw up one little cube of chicken. I don't know where the hell that thing had been stuck, but as soon as it was out, I got a whole lot better.
In a convo with someone who was stung by a box jellyfish, say if they'd had a gun they would have shot themselves, no question. The guy was a university/college professor, really genuine individual, which made what he said all the more real. Box jellyfish are the most venomous creatures on Earth. Yay Australia.
Not quite as bad, but I got stung by what the docs said probably was a box jelly. We were scuba diving and on the safety stop suddenly my upper lip was burning. Like with the mask and having the regulator and a tiny slice of your upper lip high exposed. Anyway, the burning ramped up quickly to white hot iron being shoved into my face, pain, and I panicked. It shot to the surface. By the time they dragged me onto the boat, my lip was as big as a banana and blood was leaking out of the pores like a sieve. They poured vinegar on it, but it was hours until I wasn't cross-eyed with pain. The thought was that a micro-thin tail piece just unluckily bullseyed and swiped across my lip. Totally invisible pain tentacle.
Can confirm. Got gallstones a few months after I had my kid. Labor was painful as hell, but there was like a determination to it. I knew what was happening and why and just did my best. But gallstones? Oh man. I woke up in the middle of the night out of nowhere and I literally thought I was dying. No joke, no sarcasm. I screamed to my husband to call someone because I was in agony I had never felt in my life. I thought maybe my appendix was bursting. I've been told it can feel similar, so now that I have no gallbladder, if I feel that way again I'll know it has to be the appendix lol. But yeah, it was agonizing and so scary.
I once had to reinflate my own lung after a 500cc pleural effusion was drained from one side. Every breath was agony. I had to keep taking deep breaths over several hours to fully expand my lung to full size. Doctors gave me Dilaudid every 2 hours that didn't even touch the pain. Only time I've ever gotten close to hitting a 10/10 pain.
Right there with you, brother. My appendix went bad when I was 15 and after a few days I was taken to the doctor. She was incompetent and immediately decided I just had bad gas and sent me back home. Couple days later I'm in ever increasing pain and I go back to see a different doctor. He sends me to the ER immediately and I'm in surgery that night. When I woke up, the surgeon was there and he told me I was already developing gangrene and if I would have put off surgery for even one more day, I would be dead as a doornail. Unrelated, the first doc that almost got me killed ended up murdered in a ditch outside of my town a couple years later.
Had an ovarian cyst that burst. First it felt like normal period pain. Fast forward an hour later, I am throwing up in the bathroom and crying. Of course I had no painkillers in the house and it was around 6 a.m. so no store was open. The only thing I could think of doing was drive to work because I knew there was medical kit with painkillers. So I drove there in complete agony, very safe. I took few painkillers and went to lie on the conference room floor. Nice surprise to my colleagues when they arrived.
I had ovarian torsion, but my teachers and parents didn't really listen to me, so it developed into gangrene. Eventually managed to push doctors about how much pain I was in. They decided to remove my appendix just in case and so they could do exploratory surgery, and found necrosis the size of half a football in my abdomen. Luckily I'm fine. But apparently I probably only had half a year left if it hadn't been caught. I had the pain on and off for about 2.5 years though, so I consider myself insanely lucky because apparently most times people with ovarian torsion die within days, weeks or even hours. Big love to the NHS.
Testicular torsion. It isn't life-threatening, but it's a really acute diagnosis, as the Christmas decoration needs to be untangled within a couple of hours, or else you're gonna be getting out of the OR with half the luggage. The testicles area usually attached to the bottom of the sac through an anchor and to the ceiling via the nut highway, spermatic cord. Some people just aren't born with the anchor in place, and therefore the testicles might dango. It usually happens when you're young, so most of you don't have to worry. TLDR, if one of your nuts hurt like hell, go to the ER.
I had a student stab me once. 16 stitches across my right ribs. It sucked a lot, but when I got to the hospital and they started stitching it up, the adrenaline had worn off and the local anesthetic they gave me was not working. The doctor, who I'm pretty sure studied medicine under Dr. Mangala, was not gentle or polite about it. Feeling him pierce my skin as he stitched me up made me throw up and black out.
Oh, for sure. So, I taught in a really bad part of Detroit. I had this kid in my first period class who had literally been to school like 6 times all year. He was also an 18-year-old in grade 9. A week before the end of the year, he shows up and demands all of his missing and makeup work. I tell him that it's a lot and he probably won't be able to get it done. He doesn't care. I don't want the fight, so I literally print out everything I had given out that year. I tell him to go get it from the copier and to come back. He dips and never comes back. The next week is exams. Monday is a strict review day. He shows up with 3 sheets of paper with some scribbling on them, shoves them in my face and demands an A. I tell him he didn't follow my instructions and didn't have enough done to justify passing, let alone an A. He screams, shoves me, and pulls a knife. He legit tried to plunge in my chest, but I was able to kind of deflect it, so he only slashed my ribs. I pushed him back, and 3 of my other students hopped on top of him and beat him unconscious until security showed. Cops came, arrested him, and I went to the hospital in an ambulance. As they were stitching me up, they wheeled him in. He was in the ICU for like 2 weeks. Spent most of it in a coma from the beating he took. Somehow, the 3 kids that beat him all got 100% S on their final exams and A's in the class. After I got stitched up, I went back to school. I got there roughly period 5. From then on, I was known as the school badass and literally never had an issue in my classroom again. The kid has another 2 years on his sentence, BTW. Oh, and the school paid for me to get cosmetic surgery to hide the scar.
I got a parasitic infection in my eye from using contacts in the shower, transmitted by my roommate's ferret. The months of light sensitivity sucked, as my eyes were effectively open sores. Even a breeze on my face was rather painful. But then came the surgery and treatment, where they anesthetized my eye and proceeded to scrape at it with a needle while I had to look on in horror and feel my eyeball pushed up against my skull. Then for the next month I had to put literal bleach on my eye every 3 hours to sterilize it. Imagine setting an alarm, putting bleach in your eyes, trying to fall asleep amid the burning, finally falling back asleep just before the alarm goes off again for another drop. That definitely broke me. Don't mess around with contacts, kids.
I had to get a physical for the Navy. They found minute amounts of blood in my urine. You couldn't see it when I peed, only using their testing process. They had to figure out what was wrong with my bladder. First was an ultrasound of my full bladder. Annoying, but not painful. Then, apparently, the prostate can cause that type of issue. Got a finger up the butt. Again, uncomfortable, but not really painful. The last thing was to shove a camera up my urethra. They gave me Vicodin and Valium, the same thing that gave me for my vasectomy. Nothing else pain-wise was given. As soon as they shoved the camera up my dick, I sobered up and felt the most intense pain ever. They proceeded to wiggle it around in my bladder and trip my bladder as full switch. Got done and tried to pee. Visible blood this time, and I felt violated for the rest of the day. Found the same blood about 4 years later. Made them knock me out because I wasn't doing that awake again. Nothing conclusive was found. Doc said that some people have microscopic amounts of blood in their urine. I happen to be one of the unlucky ones.
When I was 12, I was hit by a car at 45 miles per hour. The impact snapped my left humerus and shattered my left tibia/fibula. I was thrown 20 feet into a busy intersection. In the ER, the attending decided to lift my broken leg without support in order to get a board under it. Everyone told him not to, from the EMTs to the trauma nurse to my mother, who had been an RN for years. He did it anyway. The pain sent me into a grand mal seizure. Every muscle in my body contracted, including my left tricep, deltoid, and trapezius, which caused the jagged edge of my broken arm to slip its setting and move toward my neck. I never once lost consciousness.